各位记者，
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's press conference. Now the floor is open.
谢发言人，总台央视记者提问。我们看到中方发布了将于9月4号。
CCTV to follow up on China's announcement that the 2024 summit of FOCAC will be held in Beijing from September the 4th to the 6th. Can you share with us the detailed program of the summit? The upcoming summit will be the fourth time that FOCAC meeting is held in the form of a summit. Will be an event to celebrate China-Africa friendship, explore cooperation, and chart the course for the future under the theme of joining hands to advance modernization and build a high-level China-Africa community with a shared future. The FOCAC senior officials meeting and ministerial conference will be held on September the 2nd and 3rd, respectively, in preparation for the summit. From September the 4th to the 6th, the forum will hold a series of activities including the opening ceremony, a welcoming banquet, and gala performance, high-level meetings, conference of Chinese and African entrepreneurs, and bilateral meetings. There will be yet another friendly gathering of the big China-Africa family in Beijing after the 2018 FOCAC meeting. Mutual respect, treating each other as equals, and joint consultation are important features of FOCAC. The two sides are now having intensive communication and consultation on the preparation of the summit and other activities with the aim of carrying forward the spirit of China-Africa friendship and cooperation and making the summit yet another symbol of China-Africa friendship and solidarity. With the joint efforts of China and Africa, the 2024 FOCAC summit will be a great success. It will open up new vistas for China-Africa relationship and write a new chapter of building a China-Africa community with a shared future. Next one, please.
Good afternoon. A question from
路透社，对华政策跨国议会联盟在台北举办年度会议。几个议员收到了中方的邮件，认为对于会议造成了影响，中方对此有何回应？
你提到的这个所谓
The so-called alliance that you mentioned always deliberately hypes up issues related to China, spreads lies on China, and has no credibility at all. There's only one China in the world. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. Taiwan question is purely China's domestic affair that brooks no interference of external forces. China firmly opposes countries with diplomatic ties with China to have any form of official exchanges with Taiwan region. We urge relevant parliamentary members to discard the ideological bias, stop using the Taiwan question to interfere in China's domestic affairs, and do more things that are conducive to bilateral relationship instead of the other way around. Next one, please.
Thank you. Question from AFP.
法新社追问关于对华政策跨国议会联盟的问题，台湾领导人赖清德致开幕词，他认为中方对任何国家的威胁都是对世界的威胁。他还呼吁全球的民主国家反对威权国家，中方对此有何回应？
世界上只有一个
There's only one China in the world. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The Taiwan question is purely China's domestic affair that brooks no external interference. The alliance that you mentioned hypes up China issues and spread lies on China. As I said before, it has no credibility at all. I want to stress again here that Taiwan independence is incompatible with cross-strait peace as water and fires. Taiwan independence separate activities pose the most serious challenge to international order, and is the most dangerous change to the status quo of Taiwan Strait. That is, The both sides of the Taiwan Strait belongs to one China. It is also the biggest damage to cross-strait peace. Lai Ching-te authorities attempts to use force to seek independence. It is just futile. No matter how many weapons it buys, it will not bring it security. And the countries who sell weapons to Taiwan will be used as ATM machines. No matter how they try to enhance defense, it will not stop China from achieving the historical trend of realizing reunification. And such attempts will only bring disaster and tragedy to Taiwan compatriots. The One China principle is a basic norm in international relations and the international consensus. It is where the global opinion bends and the arc of history bends. The Lai Ching-te authorities runs counter to the trend, seek independence, and make provocations, use force to refuse reunification. Such attempts is doomed to be a dead end. Next one, please.
Thank you. Just now you.
你刚才表示赖清德使用武力来进行台独，那么你能否举一个例子来说明他使用了武力？
我刚才已经提到了。
As I said before, the Lai Ching-te authorities attempts to use force to seek its independence agenda. No matter how many weapons it buys, it will not bring it security. No matter how it enhances so-called national defense, it will not stop China from realizing reunification. This is a sure path of the history. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。环球时报提问：据报道，日美外长防长2+2。
Global Times. The 2+2 Japan-U.S. meeting issued a joint statement saying that the two sides convened the first ministerial meeting on extended deterrence and demonstrated to the world the importance of the two sides sharing the U.S. nuclear umbrella. What's your comment? China noted the report and expresses grave concern over the statement and comments. China follows a policy of no first use of nuclear weapons and a nuclear strategy that focuses on self-defense. China always keeps its nuclear strength at the minimal level required by national security and never engages in arms race with anyone. For any country, as long as they do not use or threaten to use nuclear weapons against China, they will not find China's nuclear weapons to be a threat. Extended deterrence is a Cold War relic. Strengthening U.S.-Japan collaboration on nuclear deterrence would stimulate regional tensions and heighten risks for nuclear proliferation and conflict. Japan has long characterized itself as a victim of nuclear explosion and an advocate of a nuclear weapon-free world, but all the while it has been sitting comfortably under the U.S. nuclear umbrella, pursuing extended deterrence and seeking nuclear deterrence. Japan owes the world an explanation for saying one thing and doing another. China calls on the U.S. and Japan to abandon the Cold War mentality, reduce the role of nuclear weapons in national and collective security policies, and take concrete actions to uphold strategic stability and regional peace and security. We call on Japan to take a hard look at its strategic security policy, earnestly fulfill its obligations as a non-nuclear weapon state pursuant to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, abide by its 3 non-nuclear principles, and refrain from seeking nuclear weapons in any form. Next one, please.
Okay, my question.
法新社关于委内瑞拉的动荡，委内瑞拉选举委员会宣布马杜罗重新被选为总统，中方已经表达了祝贺，但是其他国家包括美国、欧盟、英国、秘鲁等国家都对选举结果表达了怀疑。那么中方是否认为委内瑞拉的选举是公平自由的？中方对于委内瑞拉境内的反对有何评论？
On Venezuela's presidential election, I stated China's position yesterday. Parties need to respect the choice made by Venezuelan people. China believes that the government and people of Venezuela has the capability to handle its own domestic affairs.
To be clear then,
中方的立场是，中方认为委内瑞拉的选举结果反映了为人民的心声，是吗？
各方
As I said just now, parties need to respect the choice made by Venezuelan people. We believe that the government and people of Venezuela has the capability of handling its own domestic affairs. Next one, please.
新闻发言人东方卫视记者提问。那么今天是中华人民共和国政府和日本国政府关于销毁
Today marks the 25th anniversary of the signing of the MOU between the governments of China and Japan on the destruction of the chemical weapons abandoned by Japan in China. Can you update us on how the work is progressing and whether China has any concerns? Japan's abandoned chemical weapons ACWs in China mark one of the gravest crimes that Japanese militarists committed during the war of aggression against China. Even today, they still pose a serious threat to the safety of the life and property of the Chinese people and the ecological environment. China takes the issue of Japan's ACWs very seriously and has been urging Japan to destroy them safely, completely, and thoroughly at an early date in accordance with the Chemical Weapons Convention and the MOU between the two countries' governments. With the active assistance from the Chinese side, Japan has excavated and retrieved about 130,000 ACWs and destroyed 100,000. However, due to inadequate and unevenly distributed inputs from the Japanese side, the destruction process is generally seriously lagging behind schedule. The implementation of the destruction plan has missed the deadlines 4 times, and some key and thorny issues remain unsettled, which has severely held back and stood in the way of the destruction process. To remove the hazardous ACWs is Japan's unshakable historical, political, and legal responsibility. China calls on Japan to take seriously China's concerns, earnestly fulfill its responsibility under the relevant convention, increase inputs in all respects, do everything possible to speed up the disposal process, and fully and faithfully implement the destruction plan in its entirety, so that the day will come sooner when the Chinese people no longer have to live on soil tainted by ACWs. Next one, please.
总台国广，据报道，目前孟加拉国国内局
CRI, it's reported that the situation in Bangladesh has gradually calmed down. Life and work there has come back to normal. In the meanwhile, countries have expressed concerns on the country's situation. What's your comment? China noted that the situation in Bangladesh has come under control. Social order there has resumed. The Chinese side is heartened by that. As Bangladesh's friend and close neighbor, China and Bangladesh are comprehensive strategic cooperative partners. China stands ready to work with Bangladesh to deliver on the important common understandings reached by the leaders of the two countries during Prime Minister Hasina's visit to China, deepen the comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership between the two countries, and deliver more benefits to the two peoples. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。湖北广电记者提问：今天适逢中国加入
Hubei Media Group, today marks the 32nd anniversary of China joining the World Copyright Convention. Can you share with us China's achievements in this regard and what opportunities that China has brought to the world? China greatly values the development and protection of copyright industry. Since joining the Universal Copyright Convention in 1922, China have made amendments to its copyright law, joined in the Marrakesh Treaty. Now, the registration of copyrights in China reached over 8.92 million. The copyright protection reflects how China values its IP protection efforts. In recent years, China has been strengthening protection of all sorts of IP, including patent, trademarks, copyrights, geological indications, and so on. providing support to high-quality development. China has been fully involved in global IPR governance under the framework of WIPO and has continued to deepen exchanges with the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and BRICS countries. China is committed to fostering a fair, open, and transparent business environment. Since AstraZeneca won its case on patent, it has ramped up the investment in China. Now Ford has nearly 9,000 patents and trademarks in China. Nearly 5,000 companies have been registered in the National IPR Center and Law Enforcement Center. All these facts show that IPR ecological circle in China has been improved, and foreign investors vote of confidence to China. High-quality development needs to be driven by innovation, and IPR protection is to protect innovation. The third plenary session said that it is important to improve market economy basic system, enhance the effective IPR and comprehensive management mechanism, and enhance the judicial and law enforcement protection of IP. China will continue to stay committed to high standards opening up, enhance IPR protection, deepen international exchanges and cooperation, align with high standard international trade and economic rules, foster a better business environment for foreign investors, and make the global IP investment and protection more fair, equitable, and reasonable. Share with all sides the outcomes of IP protection and innovation development. Next one, please. Any more questions?
Thank you. More news.
美国情报官员表示，中国以及其他国家招募美国人进行宣传，以在美国总统大选之前促进其利益。外交部对此有何回应 ？China has never and will never interfere in the presidential elections of the U.S. The U.S. side should not spread disinformation to vilify China and should not make China an issue in U.S. elections. Next question, please. It was reported that Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim wrote on a social media platform a few days ago that he appreciates the Chinese government's efforts to facilitate discussions between Fatah, Hamas, and other factions of Palestine, and hopes that the Beijing Declaration will translate into tangible results. He once again called for governments around the world to recognize the state of Palestine and encourage such unity efforts. What's China's comment? China appreciates the comment of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, which reflects the common expectation and aspiration of the international community, including the vast Arab and Islamic states, for an early settlement of the Palestinian question and the realization of peace and stability in the Middle East. On promoting the internal reconciliation of Palestine, China's hope and direction of effort are highly identical with those of the vast Arab and Islamic states. China stands ready to step up communication and coordination with Malaysia and other parties, work for the implementation of the Beijing Declaration, and play a constructive role for peace and stability in the Middle East. Next question, please.
Anything else? Beijing used daily also on Japan and the U.S. My colleague just asked about the Japan-U.S. 2+2 meeting and the ministerial meeting on extended deterrence. Despite the two meetings, apart from the two meetings, the Japan, Australia, India, U.S. foreign ministers meeting was also held in Tokyo. 2+2 joint statement also criticized China of its foreign policies. What's your comment? Despite China's grave concerns, Japan and the U.S. grossly interfered in China's internal affairs on Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, and Xizang, and falsely accused China on maritime issues. Under the Cold War mentality, those two countries have been inciting bloc confrontation, damaging regional peace and stability, and harming other countries' security interest. China firmly opposes this and has lodged serious protests with the Japanese side through diplomatic channels. We call on Japan to view China in an objective and rational light, stop its political manipulation on China's domestic affairs, stop making provocations on maritime issues, stop ganging up with countries outside the region to create division and confrontation in the region, follow a path of peaceful development, and earn the trust of its Asian neighbors and the wider international community through concrete actions. Next one, please.
还有其他问题吗？
Anything else?
好，感谢大家出席今天。
Thank you for coming. Let's call it a day.